Whenever a new Vanguard launches, that just sets the tone for the element. And right now we have the Ventus Vanguard, Wraith, who has one of the most unique playstyles I've ever seen in this game. In this video, we will be going over her guide video and focusing on her two builds and which build you should focus on, as well as which potentials that you should be selecting. Now, my name is KindCruelty and let's dive in. Now, when I say she has the most unique builds, what I mean is she has two playstyles that feel totally different to play. Like they're totally different to play, both of them. While you could argue that she also had two different playstyles depending on whether you were doing the auto attack spam or the knight build, which is the AoE. But this also feels very different, and it's among those lines where one playstyle feels totally different from the other. What do I mean? Well, I won't be going over her skills quite as much, right? Because I feel like going over the skills you people can read. Her auto attack, she deals auto attacks. If you're near the enemy, she'll deal physical attacks, melee attacks, and if she's far away from the enemy, she will shoot her weapon, basically the gun, at the enemy. And then her skill does those rapid slashes, and then depending on the potentials you get, she can summon tornadoes and all that. And then the ultimate, she basically, it's like she dashes towards the enemy and deals multiple strikes. Let's just call it that. And it can trigger Ventus and all that. But yes, that is the skills. I trust you to know the skills. What we're here for are the potentials and which potentials you should be focusing on. So to make this quick, right, we shall just skip to the main build. This is the build, as you can see on screen, that you should be focusing on for her. Now we are starting with the auto attack build. Now I do believe the auto attack build is better than the skill build for her, but the difference isn't that high. But considering the ease of use for the skill build, right, for the auto attack build, I believe it is largely better due to that, because the other has a skill ceiling, and with mistakes that reduces the total damage that you deal overall. But this one is a very simple build, easy to do, although it can give you trouble in the current boss splits because that boss kind of hits for a lot. So if you're close by, you get damaged a lot and you can die easily. Whereas the opposite one, where you can just get your footing from afar and start sniping at the boss, can help you a bit in survivability. So there is that. Those are the two caveats for the two builds. So what you do want is Last Gasp of Gale, as you can see here. You want these two, and Twin Shadows. You want those two. They generate whirlwinds that are basically treated as auto attack damage, right? And then you're gonna want 0 Hour. After 0 Hour, you're gonna want Blade Waltz. Now I've put the core as the two rare potentials, but Blade Waltz and Rapid Draw are core to this build. I know you see them there in the medium, and then you see Tempest Dance as well as Raging build. If you had to go in order of priority, Blade Waltz and Rapid Draw would be sort of core to the build, and then Tempest Dance and Raging Battle Wheel are sort of, if I've already got the Blade Waltz and the Rapid Draw, then I can go for the Tempest Dance and the Battle Wheel. The reason I go for the Tempest Dance here is because that it increases the Ventus Mark damage when it increases the Ventus damage when Ventus Mark is triggered, and the Raging Battle Wheel is sort of, it increases your attack every time you cast an ultimate. It's a medium one to have. It's nice to have, but it's not a core that I'd call it that you need it that much. I did try out her alt build a bit, didn't have much success, which is why I'm only recommending the auto attack build and the skill build. The auto attack potentials are nice to have. As you can see, they are there in optional. If you've already got everything in the medium slot, then you can go get the alt builds as well. You can also get Unseen Predator for the extra dodge. So that is it for the auto attack build. Those are the potentials that you will want to focus on. Unseen Predator, as I've said, it's a nice to have. Daybreaker, it's good damage for the alt if you've got everything else. And Tempest Siphon is also good damage if you've got everything else. Now I won't be going over the Nazuka and End potentials in as much detail as the other two, because I feel like you already know. We've gone over her build and what you want. I recommend the Flower Formation build, and you're gonna want Flower Formation Blast and Almighty Leader. Those are the two most important ones, the core ones you want. Now I put Flower Convergence, as I've told you, because it's as optional, because It's when 2 or more targets are caught in the flower formation, which will be rare unless you are in Menace Arena or Cataclysm. But for Boss Blitz, which is where I assume everybody wants to get a good build for, it doesn't hold as much value. Now, Windflower Region could be a core one. You could call this core because it increases the Ventus damage taken off the unit, whereas Windseed Demon is just a nice to have because it increases Nazuka's attack. Again, and you just want the ones that are going to increase the damage of your damage against the enemy, basically, which is basically Wind, Havoc, Corrosion, which increases Ventus damage taken, and Turbulent Flow, which also increases Ventus damage taken. Now, the Windgate Barrier is a nice to have because when it's there, it increases the main attacker's attack. And this one, there's a 35% chance to increase Ventus damage dealt. This one's nice to have too because Nazuka deals a lot of damage and Wraith deals a lot of damage. So whoever it buffs, it actually ends up having more value. Now that is it for this build. I won't be going over the Nazuka and the N for the skill build, as I've already gone over them now. Their build really doesn't change. So we shall now be going over to the skill build and which potentials you want and how you should be playing that build. Now the skill build, yeah, I didn't mention how to play the auto attack build because you can just press on the skills whenever they become available. You can use them whenever they become available. You don't really need to pay any attention. It's easier to auto. Like I've said, one build is easier to auto, and then the other really needs good placement and it needs you to pay attention to your skills. What do I mean by that? With the skill build, you want to save your skills until you've got 3, and then you want to hold your skill button to use all 3 of them at once. This increases the damage that you do, and it's core to the build because if you don't do that, your damage potential really does reduce. So what do you want for this build? Remember again, playstyle, you want to hold all 3 charges of your skill build before using them all at once. Now this is main build 2, and you want Storm Piercing Surge and Wind Splitting Bullet, as you can see. You also want Tracing Blink and Dauntless Pose. Again, I've put those as core, but then I do believe that Overheat Shot and Scaling and Scorching Gale are also good core potentials. It's the next 2 you want after you've got all those 4 that I've shown you there. It's the next 2 you want, and then you can go for Tempest Stance and Raging Betting Will, and then the optional ones, I've explained them as well. Now this build requires you to be a bit far from the enemy, because if you're playing Wraith, you will notice that there are 2 circles in her gameplay. The first circle is if any enemy is within that circle, she will do melee damage, but if anyone is outside that circle, then she will start sniping at them from a distance. So this is the sniping build, and it really requires you to save those skills and use them. When you've got all 3 of them, just hold the button, she will use all those 3 skills, and then you can continue sniping at the target from afar. Now, both playstyles are really fun for me, right? Both playstyles are really fun. This one, if you want to be engaged in the combat, if you want to take your time, position yourself and really be engrossed in the combat, then I'd advise you to use the skill build. And as I find it the more fun build out of the 2 now. I know earlier when I first tested it, I was like, I don't quite enjoy this. But now that I see that how I'm supposed to play it and how I am to position myself whilst playing the build, I actually find this quite fun. And then if I want to turn my brain off or leave everything on auto, I can then go for the second build, which is the auto attack build, and just turn it off and just unga bunga everything. Nazuka and N stay the same, they do not change. Their potentials, you just want them to increase the damage of the damage dealer, so you leave them as is. Now that is it for the potentials. We can now go for what's next. We can now go for the emblems and what emblems you want for your emblems. Now, emblems are always the last thing I build, so I haven't built them quite as much. So for the level 70 emblem, you are going to want penetration. Penetration does shine again. You are also going to want crit rate, right? And then you're also going to want, for the auto attack build, you are going to want auto attack damage. And then for the skill build, you are going to want skill build, and then you're going to want elemental damage as well. Those are the 4 that you should be focusing on. Getting mark damage is not so bad. You can get it. So yeah. And then for the level 80 emblem, in this one, you also still want the penetration plus, you also still want the penetration, and then you're going to want the auto attack damage +3 for the auto attack damage build, and then you're going to want skill damage +3 for the skill damage, and then crit rate is nice to have, and alt is also nice to have. Those are the ones you should be getting for the level 80 build. And then for the level 90 emblem, which is the one that you want to be focusing mostly on, what's this thing called? You want to be focusing mostly on the emblems. Remember, the emblems you want are the ones that I had labeled as core, and those are the ones you want. So for the auto attack build, you're going to want 0 hour if you can get it. You can get Dauntless Poise for both builds, and then you can get Blade Waltz or Rapid Draw. Whichever ones you can get, it is advised to get those, and those are the ones that are in the core, and the mediums that I had said that are the first two you want, which is for the auto attack build, which is Blade Waltz and Rapid Draw. And then for the skill build, which is the ranged build, you're gonna want Trace One Blink. As I said, Dauntless Poise, you can get it for any of the two builds, and then you're gonna want Overheat Shot or Scorching Gale. And then you can always get elemental damage. It's always a nice to have. You can always get the elemental damage and the auto attack damage if you are able to get that, or the skill damage, depending on which build you are on. Those are nice to haves for this build, depending on which potentials you actually, which stats you actually get, because I doubt you'll be able to get all three unless you've got the stamina for that to get Trace One Blink, Overheat Shot, Scorching Gale. Then you can just get elemental damage or skill damage and call it a day. But yeah, that is it for your emblems. Now, I don't really go over talents since I am a free-to-play player, right? I am a free-to-play player, but Potential 1 is a nice one because when Wraith triggers a Ventus mark, right, it increases her skill damage and auto attack damage. This one buffs both skills, buffs both, skills, buff both build, which is the skill build and the auto attack build, so it is nice. And then the other one, when Wraith deals skill damage to a target, her attack is increased by 2%. I would stop at the first build if you're looking to, at the first talent, if you're looking for where to stop, because I feel like that one is a good place to stop, right? And then increasing the attack, you can get it from anywhere. You can get it from Anne, because most of her, I know I said you focus on those potentials, but the game might force feed you some potentials, and she does buff attack quite well, so you don't need to be overstacked on the attack. And she also self buff attack with Unseen Predator, Tempest Stance, Raging Battle Wheel, so you will be getting the attack. Okay, Tempest Stance does not buff attack, but yes, Unseen Predator does, so you will get that attack everywhere, so I would skip that. And then Potential 3, again, it goes back to buffing your skill damage and your attack damage, which is a good potential, which is a good talent to get, but then it involves you getting talent 2, which I don't advise getting. So it's either you stop at talent 1 or stop at talent 3, but then if you're gonna go to talent 4, you might as well get talent 5 as well. So yeah, that is it for the talents, and that is it for the build. I tried to make it shorter this time, and I didn't explain the potentials I've gotten quite as much. As long as you know that these are the ones you're supposed to get and what they do, I feel like that is enough, and I've shortened the build quite a lot. Now, I have been testing a mark damage build for the people who do not have the Nazuka, and I feel like it should be ready. I just wanted to test it out more on the boss blitz, if I can just do it without dying, if I can just finish that boss blitz without dying, and then I can feel confident in that build, and then I can give it to you. Because if you do not have the Nazuka, I feel like, the Tilia can work in that slot. But I'm almost done with that, and I'll be posting it as soon as I'm done. Until the next one, cheers.